Hey guys, welcome back. In this video I wanted to go over various images and videos, and I wanted to talk about various features and things that I'm gonna see, or things that I want to point out in the ocean and what we need to be looking for. And I do this to try and recreate something as close as possible to real life, and before we do that we have to understand what's happening in real life. Now when we talk about ocean, at least for me, I have a very wrong idea about ocean, and what comes to mind is something blue and calm, or a sunset. These are the two images that comes to mind when you talk about ocean. And the reason for that is because I grew up close to the beach, and I have a lot of visual references. I've gathered a lot of visual references where the ocean is calm and blue, and that's what it means to me. But it's not the right idea. It's not the right visual about ocean. And we only started recently seeing ocean from the top, and we as a human, we only look at the ocean, or at least if you're not a pilot, we always look at the ocean straight from the beach, and we see straight into the horizon line, and the ocean is not facing us. It's always perpendicular to our view. So what we're seeing is we're getting a lot of reflection of the sky, and that's based off the Fresnel equation, and we're going to talk about that. So what we're seeing is a lot of reflection being broken or distorted based on the shape of the ocean. And if we change the angle and look at the ocean from a different view, maybe from 45 degree or from the top, we're going to see something very different. And in fact, ocean from the top is very, very weird to look at. We're not accustomed to seeing this. Only recently, from documentaries and things like that, we started to gather what ocean looks like. And in fact, in some cases, it's actually a very dark blue with nothing, no reflection at all, because that's based off the Fresnel equation. So I wanted to go over various references and show this. Now, there's two things. Ocean itself is made of water. If we take a sample of the ocean back home, just a small fill cup with water and take it home, it's transparent. It's 100% transparent, and it's just water. But once we look at the ocean, it has various different colors, it behaves differently, it reflects the light differently, there is a lot of refraction, and we just get to see something very, very unique. But in essence, the water itself is just transparent with a fixed index of refraction, unless there is some dirt or something in the ocean itself, in the water itself, that will distort and change that index of refraction. And so we have to consider all these things when we look at the visual. And there's two main things. There is the wind that's going to deform the surface, which will impact how the reflection happens, what kind of ray we receive back. And what the deformation of the surface will do is going to distort and vary the reflection amount that gets bounced to us. Now I'm talking about a view where we look at the ocean like this. From this angle, what we're seeing now is basically a lot of reflection from the sky, whatever environment, and then everything else that is not reflective, we're seeing something else. We're seeing inside the refraction of the ocean, and it depends on this color indicates a lot of things about the water. It indicates if there is material inside, if there is any dust or sand. It indicates how deep it is. It indicates if there is a cliff, rocks, or algae, or anything. We can tell from these colors and from the variation of this blue tone. And what we're seeing here is basically the refraction with no reflection. What we're seeing in this area is the reflection only. And if you do, once you learn about CG and how you do shading, there's something called BRDF, bidirectional reflectance function. And what this is, it means that the amount of light coming in and the amount of light going out is always the same. So what that means, if we're getting 100% reflection, we're not seeing any reflection from that component. But if we're seeing 100% refraction, then we're getting zero reflection from the ocean, and this depends on the angle that we're looking at the ocean from, and the reflection is driven from the Fresnel. So things that we're looking at straight, they're going to reflect 100%. Things that are perpendicular to the camera, and I will show example in Houdini, will reflect more. If we're looking at something flat, like a surface like this, we're going to see zero reflection because the face normal is aligned to the camera, so it's going to give us back zero reflection. But if the face was aligned like the ocean here, we're going to get a lot of reflection because the normal of the surface is facing away from the camera. And again, I will show this in a small example in Houdini. Now let's go over some of these examples, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, and hopefully you guys will build a better visual reference about what ocean looks like. Another thing I wanted to mention that is very, very important, one of the main challenges with creating oceans is being able to keep a very high level of details at various angles. And in this example, we're very close to the ocean, but if we zoom out, we can create something that looks really nice from this angle. But if we zoom out, we see all kinds of issues, maybe timing, maybe the details are lost, maybe we don't have something that looks decent from a different distance. And then if we look further from even further camera, it's going to look terrible because we didn't account for showing all these fine details at a wide angle. So it's very, very challenging to maintain a decent level of details based on multiple cameras, and we're going to talk about how we can do that. So in this first example, I just wanted to show some ocean. You can see these white tips. Now, wind is number one factor of deciding how these waves are going to move. Now, we're getting a lot of rippling from whatever ship or object is moving, so that's affecting this area as well. But if you look here, there's a lot of small waves that are cusping quickly, and what it means is there's a lot of turbulent wind, and these cusps from far away, we can easily recreate this in shaders, and we don't have to do any sim. So that's one feature, one behavior that we're gonna do and implement. And here the other thing that we can see is a lot of variation of mid and small waves. So we have these big shapes, and then we have a lot of small variation and the cusps. So this is an example. Again, I have various things. I have still images. Each one of them I'm going to talk about what I see and what we need to be looking at. Now, if we forget about what this actually is for a second, we just look at this in terms of pixels, what we're seeing, what we're looking at. We're basically looking at something that is very reflective. We're getting a lot of reflection, and then there is a lot of deformation, a lot of variation in the surface. You can see it here. And all this variation is helping break up the reflection. What we're seeing now is not the detail of the ocean, but the detail of the reflection being broken and varied. That's how we read the surface. And as we get further and further away from this, it's becoming basically noise, and just like exactly like a noise. But we can see here a lot of details. Now, from this angle, it's not pointed. We're still at a maybe 40-degree angle from the ocean, so we're getting a very decent amount of reflection here. You can see the reflection of the ship in this area. And overall, this grid or this geometry or this shape doesn't have a lot of variation. It's very uniform. There's only small and very fine details present here. And this ocean, if we do this in CG, it's not going to look very realistic, even if we reproduce it 100%. And the reason for that is because we like to see things that are pleasing. We like to see big waves, we like to see complex motion, we like to see nice reflections. And if we do this 100%, it will look okay, it will look realistic, but it's not going to look pleasant. It's not going to look attractive to the human eye because it's just pure reflection with not so much details. And maybe this is more of a my art side talking, but from a visual point of view, it's not very artistic imagery. So let's continue. This angle is actually very, very nice. I really like this one. And the ocean shape and deformation, or the ocean shape varies a lot as we get closer to shore. So you can tell if the ocean section that you're looking at is close to shore or not by looking at it. And even if we didn't have this, it's going to be really hard to get the same look. There's a lot of green here. I see a lot of greens, which means there is a lot of the sand layer is very close, so we're not too deep in the ocean. If we were deeper in the ocean, these colors would be much darker. It will be almost black or blue. And you can see it's we're very close to the surface. We're seeing only fine details. So if we zoom out of this ocean, it's gonna look almost flat with just a small amount of noise on it. This is another one, and the reason I wanted to show this is that idea that we have about ocean being blue and nice is completely wrong. The ocean doesn't look always like that, and this is an example of that. See, it looks almost like a piece of cloth with some wrinkles in it to me. So if we do this, if we recreate this in CG, again, it's not gonna look very, very interesting visually, because there is not so much things that we like to see in this image. It's just flat, and I can tell that the sky also is very flat and cloudy because of how it looks. There is no variation in the reflection at all. That's an example. This is another example. This one is this is another example similar to that one, and you can see here also the reflection. It's almost a gray, or it looks metallic surface. And this is another image. Maybe I'll leave this to the end because this is the visual that we're going to go for. And this one I'm gonna ignore. So this one, for example, it's very hard for us to see these kind of images because photographers, they go and hunt for these specific type of imagery, and it's very hard to combine and actually see this the exact same way. And you can see here it's very deep ocean, and it's very calm, and we're getting these straight reflection. Maybe this has some fakeness in it, but getting these nice reflection is actually, it's not something we see very, very common. The reason for that, the wind always make enough variation in the surface of the ocean to the point that it breaks up the reflection. And I will show, let me make a note of this. Ocean. So I made a note. I want to illustrate why we don't get these elongated reflection in the ocean no matter what. It's very rare to find. I'm gonna ignore this one, is too small. This one. So again, if we look at this image and we use this as a reference, it's a flat plane. It's a gray plane with some noise in it. That's it. But it's an ocean. It's a realistic, it's a real life ocean imagery. And again, this is not very, very interesting. And I'm gonna go over various things. Hopefully you guys will find this useful. Now this is a great image, and what I can tell from this, even if I didn't see this, is that the ocean is very close to shore, because this calmness, it means it's not exposed to a lot of winds. And see these areas here, you don't get this wind variation, or like areas where the wind quickly changes if you don't have a closed area or a current that is changing quickly, a wind that is changing quickly, and that's what's causing these flat areas. Basically, we have less wind here, we have more wind here, we have less wind here, and this is actually very, very nice visual to look at, because what this does, it helps us understand the perspective and how deep the ocean is. With these three ships, it obviously helps, but getting these nice patterns actually helps us understand the depth and the scale of the scene. And they do this a lot in CG to give the illusion of depth, because just a flat plane, a reflective flat plane, is not very interesting. So this helps with the visual a lot. Okay, so this is another image, and as you can see, it's almost blue. There's a lot of fog here, but again, it's not a fancy ocean. There's no reflection. There's nothing interesting to look at. And again, if we do this in CG, it's not going to look very interesting. Okay, so some clips, and this is a very calm ocean. And again, remember that it's always being shot from, maybe it's shot from a drone. Yeah, this could be shot from drone that is controlled by a close by station, and this is a very awesome example. Now look at the first angle here where we started. Look at how much reflection here we have. It's not much. We're seeing through a lot. It's just a uniform color. If we isolate this, it's very uniform. Okay, there's nothing crazy there, and the reflection, the amount of reflection is okay. We're getting a decent amount of refraction that we're looking at, as well as some nice reflection. And you can see how transparent the water is. We're seeing creature there. And then the camera is gonna start tilting and looking at it from the top. Now look at how much reflection, less reflection we have. It's only on these edges, and we're seeing more through now. And it's gonna almost become flat. This one is still not flat, but it's almost flat. We don't have a lot of reflection here, and that's because of the Fresnel factor. And the pattern is we can read multiple waves. We can see a big wave moving this way, we can see other waves moving this way, and there is a mixture of different things overlaid on top of each other, and that's the effect of the wind. So let's continue. This is another reference, and what I wanted to show here is the color of the ocean. Now, obviously the waves are not very high. It's very calm ocean, but it's very turbulent. So the frequency of the wind is very high. That causes a lot of small waves that comes quickly, but we don't have anything that causes the waves to go really high and have big cavities and things like that. It's small ripples, but it's very turbulent, so it moves quickly. And we can read one layer that is deforming everything. You see it goes up and then it goes back down, so like a mid wave, and then a lot of fine details. But look at the ocean color here. It's very uniform. We're getting almost like a reflection, basically a reflection of the sky, which is cloudy, and then this very dark color here where we don't have reflection. So this tells me that the ocean is very deep at this distance. I can tell from the movement and from the color, I can tell that it's very deep ocean. Okay, so this is another one, and this is probably what we are used to see. This is the type of ocean that we like. At least I like to see blue, nice reflection, a lot of waves, and a flat horizon, and it's very nice. It has nice patterns and things like that. So this type of ocean is ideal to recreate in CG, because this is what a lot of people expect to see, and the things that tells us this is an ocean and this is a believable ocean are all present here. So if we reproduce this, we're going to be able to create a believable imagery. This is another one that I'm not so sure. What I wanted to show here is the color of the ocean. You can see there's no blue almost everything is red, and it doesn't have any big waves. It's very flat. You can read a wave, a wind passing by, and there is a lot of small frequency detail, so a lot of turbulent wind. This is another type, and this is another great reference that I wanted to show. And maybe you can show, yeah, I can show this one. So what I wanted to show here is that this is an ocean. This is a very deep ocean, and we're not getting any reflection at all. Maybe tiny bit, but it's all we're seeing through the ocean. If we render this, if we do this exact same look, it will probably never get approved in production, because nobody wants to see, unless they have a specific art reference that they are following and they are respecting. People are not going to be happy seeing blue all over this. They want to see reflection, they want to see noise, they want to see breakups. But this is a realistic reference. So if we go and create this and show people and say, hey, this is a realistic ocean, they're not going to believe us. And the reason for that is because we are not used to see these kind of stuff. This is something that started happen very, very recently, and mainly because of drones. Airplanes footage maybe, but we only see these kind of things in documentaries and movies. Us as a human, we only view ocean from a human level, like from the beach or something like that. So again, we have to be very careful from the angle that we're looking at. If we were to tilt down and look straight from this angle onto this, we will see a lot of details, because we're going to start reflecting the sky. So this is another reference. You can see how much refraction there is. You can see some reflection here because of the sun, and there is a lot of details in the ocean. It's not flat, but again, we're not seeing anything at the moment. Let's continue. So this is a great reference, and I believe, yeah, so this is another great example. You can see here the wind area. See how dark this area is. It could be due to many things, but primarily wind that is causing this. And this is a great complexity, great visual complexity to aim at recreating, because we can easily get something believable out of this. Same angle, same reflection, same everything. This is another great ocean, and it's one of the types that I was looking at. We get these nice slow waves, so you can feel there's a movement overall, and then we have mid-level details and small level details. I'm going to talk about this more. So this is another example, and it's a stormy ocean, and it's cloudy, so the sky is very, very uniform. Even if we get reflection, it's going to be very uniform. But the reason we're not getting any reflection here is because the waves are so big. They're changing the ocean surface quite a bit, or a lot, and there's a lot of noise that where the reflection is basically broken. We're not getting a chance to see any reflection. Everything we're looking at here is refraction. You can see it's very uniform, but we get these nice foam areas and a lot of cusp coloring and things like that. But if we look here again, we can't tell all the details. We're just guessing from these things that changes white and then goes back to nothing. We assume that the waves are coming up and down, and this is very hard to achieve as well, and to sell, to make it believable. So this is a great reference, and I believe we're not very deep in shore here. We're very close to the, sorry, we're not very deep in ocean, very close, because we're getting a lot of waves breaking up, and the reason for this is because the sand surface is very close, and that helps reduce the dampen the rippling of the wind, and it causes the waves to cusp more. But what I like here is this blue tone. You see the waves are changing colors, and that's because of the way the refraction behaves. So that's a very nice visual to go for. And you can see also we have one big layer moving everything. You can see the waves are getting close to each other and then separating, and then we have about 2 or 3 different layers. Yeah, so another one. So this is very very typical ocean. It's very uniform, it's very reflective. And even though, remember that image where I said we don't see the straight reflection, and when we have something like this, when we put a grid, we expect the reflection to go all the way down. We expect the reflection to go straight. But if you see here, this guy, this ship doesn't reflect it at all, even though we're facing it from a perfect angle where it should be mirrored almost. And the reason for that is because there's so many details on the surface that breaks up the reflection quickly. We're only lucky to see this because the fine ripples are not too strong, so we can still see that, but they're from the perspective, or as we go further and further, they have a much stronger effect on the perspective, and they break up the reflection a lot faster, so we don't see this. But I will show an example to properly illustrate this. And yeah, you don't get reflection. You see it's almost flat in this area with some glossy reflection, and it's obviously reflecting the sky, but again, it's not one-to-one. You can't find this here. There's some illumination, but it's not one-to-one. So this is a great ocean. You see there's not so many details. There's only one level, I assume, and there's a lot of breakups. You can see these white spots as well, so that's all due to the wind, and we're going to learn how to achieve that as well. Okay, I'm gonna skip this one. Yeah, this one. So again, we can easily achieve this type of ocean with a system, but it's not going to be very realistic. We always want to see something that has more variation, more breakups, and this, at least to me, it looks very uniform. So probably go in and add more stuff. And even if you reproduce this and you work on a movie or something, they will say we want to see more breakups, more variation, but you show the reference and they say no, we want more reference, even though it looks 100% realistic. So what the reason people ask for that is because they want to show more pleasing visual, and this, again, to me, it's very uniform. If you isolate this area, it's very, very repetitive. And what we're going to fake or achieve is this nice blue or green effect. Now, you don't see this very often. You don't see this in deep ocean because there's nothing underneath. The sand is, the sand is very low, it's very deep, no light reaches it, we don't see any refraction or anything like that. But here, this cliff is probably here as well, and it goes all the way down, and these refractions, they help make the visual more pleasing. It helps break up the look of the ocean, and it gives a nice sense of perspective. So let me show. So I have it here, even though it's not realistic at this depth. Here you can see nice glow in the center. As we go, you see nice different variation here, some patterns here, some refraction to break this up. I probably have a lot of reflection, but again, it makes things look more interesting, and it depends on the visual that you have. You can obviously tune the reflection down and show more refraction. It's really up to you, but for me, to make it look believable, I think this is more pleasing to the eye. And I carefully place the HDR so I get these nice highlights from the sun. Then as it tilts up, you see also here we have more refraction with very little reflection. But to compensate for that, I added these speculars because they're related to the sun, and if the sun is aligned to our angle, we still get to see this. And as we tilt more and more, we're going to get more reflection, more and more reflection. And you see these white spots, and we also have these white caps to show that there is waves cusping. So that's one example. And then this is another example It's the same scene, just different HDR, and this one also has the same effect with the green refraction. You see here spots, different spots, and that helps with the visual. It helps with the depth. It helps to show scale of the scene. So we're gonna implement that. Skip this. Yep. So this is another one. You can see all these colors. They're not variation in the ocean color. It's just a wind effect that causes the noise to go in a different direction that makes the reflection different. So if I have a surface pointing this way, it's going to pick up a sky color. If it's facing this way, it's going to pick different color. So that's where these parts are coming from. So this is the green effect as well. You can see here a dark spot, and again, just helps make things look more interesting. I'm gonna skip this one, the PRDF, and this is one of the closest reference, I believe, to the one we are doing. You can see cusp here, you can see the green color, and you can see the blue spots. And again, it's not. We generally get these looks close to the shore, but the idea is we're far off the shore. Maybe not in this one, but I'll show you guys the techniques, and then it's up to you guys to decide. So that's pretty much it for the visual reference. The takeaway is ocean doesn't look blue, and it's not always reflective, and it's very, the wind, even the slightest wind, will cause the reflection to get broken up quickly, very, very quickly. And the approach that I'm going to show to basically create a complex visual, we need multiple layers of ocean, and one of them is going to be the big ocean that drives the main scale, and then the large ocean waves that doesn't have a high frequency noise, and then the mid-level layers, the mid noise, and then the small, which we will use to add the fine details. Now I'm gonna in the next video I want to show a few things about the reflection, to explain a few more things about the visual, and then we're going to start creating the ocean setup itself. Thank you guys for watching, and see you